Committee meeting to order, and we are missing Carl and Jack, and they are both excused. Okay, first thing on the agenda is the Miller Park land use planning.
Carl put together this is just conceptual, and this is what Carl and Peter have discussed about the possibility of the Civic Association raising funds and working with the village to create a more developed park at Miller. Anything you want to add, Peter?
It's more than conceptual, it's probably a final plan.
Oh, okay.
It's what we're going to use for marketing for funds. Hi, Brian.
Yeah, it's not closed. You can sit there. We're just in.
I need to steal you though for a second. It's pretty important.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Since this is on, if you would discuss it further, then.
The horseshoes currently exist. We're not going to remove those. The playground exists. There's a sandbox there that continues to stay in place. The volleyball or the tennis court, one of the courts is going to act as a full regulation size basketball court because we don't have one. And we've had a lot of requests that we build one or do something, so we're going to take one of those away. Actually, it'll probably end up to be like dual purpose. So somebody will be, we're going to put a fence down the middle to isolate the two so somebody can actually be playing tennis while somebody else is playing two half courts or full court basketball. Pavilion's going to be 36 by 48. The pavilion will house three smaller buildings inside. One will be a kitchen, because we don't have a pavilion in this village that has a kitchenette. So unlike Alonso Park, this will have a kitchen with running water, refrigerator, electricity, so you'll be able to rent it. If a ball diamond or if a ball game were to take place, the pavilion would be open for the kitchen if they wanted to use it. One of the rooms will be used for 3 hot water storage tanks to preheat the water coming off the solar panels on the pavilion. That will be the first pre-treatment of the water to bring it up to temperature for the splash pad. So Carl and I and Chris have designed this. We did a lot of research on corporate stuff that's available, commercial. Decided that we can replicate it at 1/4 of the cost. And probably have a more efficient design. So what will end up happening is the water will come off the solar panels on the top and go into 3 A.O. Smith 72-gallon heaters with enough output to maintain 4 water features for the kids. Okay? On the splash pad. The other little building in there will be a small little canteen, if you will, that will sell sodas, pops, candies, and stuff for those kids and those parents that come there for the water park. Water park we propose to open on Memorial Day weekend and close on Labor Day weekend, and open 7 days a week from about 11 in the morning till 5 or 6 in the evening. No sooner, no earlier needed. We're working on a fee schedule. We're thinking that when they come there, mother brings her 2 kids in, they get a wristband for $2, they can stay there all day. So each child will be assessed, and the mother will be assessed a fee of $2 a person, and that wristband will entitle them to stay there all day. So we'll have some income from the canteen or the snack shack. There's some infrastructure work that has to be done there. If you look at the print, the lines that you see coming out of the current building, you see the parking lot has to be expanded. We're going to work on that. So this year we propose to have enough funds raised to do the parking lot, and then all the power and water that would come out of the main building, the pump house,
and feed the pavilion. Phase 2, which would be next spring, would be building the pavilion, upgrading the tennis court to a full basketball court, and doing some paving around the area. The splash pad would be the spring of 2020. And hopefully that would open, get it early enough, put it in March, and probably hope to have it open by Memorial Weekend.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Splash pad, you mentioned like wristbands and that sort of thing. Is there like a fenced area that would prevent people from?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not laid out here.
okay.
So if you take a look around the pavilion and the splash pad, well, you see that green line that says storm that goes over to the other storm and then back again? There'd be a fenced in area there with picnic tables, so you can actually sit outside too.
Okay.
If parents wanted to sit out with their kids. The ice rink is something we talked about, we wanted to add. That's a winter feature, we don't have anything in town. So it's just a depression that would be made in the ground and flooded. And we're gonna run a 4-inch water main to a hydrant so that we can actually flood it coming out of the pump house. So the hydrant would probably be over here somewhere by the pavilion, so we could flood that in the wintertime. It will be lighted. The lights that would serve for lighting up the basketball and the tennis courts would also be dual purpose so that they could actually focus in on them. The kitchenette that would normally be used for parties in the summertime will actually serve as a warming house for the kids for skating. So we'll pull out the refrigerator, we'll put it in storage, we'll take out the stainless steel tables that are in there, we'll put those in storage, and we'll put a bench in there, and it'll be heated. So the kids actually will come off the back side of that, so it's on the lower corner where that warming shelter is, and they can come out of there and go skating. So we thought this out pretty well. Let's talk about the financing of this. We have a rough estimate of somewhere around $75,000 to do all this. I'm not sure how much Carl has budgeted for the upgrade of the parking lot, if anything.
We had to take that out of the budget.
That's what I thought. That's what he said. So the onus is really on us to try to raise the funds. We're going to do it 2 ways. We're going to do corporate funding, corporate sponsorships, and we're going to do personal sponsorships. It's going to be a 2-year program, so again, we'll work on getting the funding to do the infrastructure part first, starting this fall, and get that in. We'll do rough paving of the parking lot, the first coat. We won't do the final coat till we're completely ready for it. The next year, we'll build the pavilion, and the year after that, we'll finish up with the splash pad. Now, we did some research, Carl and I did some research, and we had a meeting yesterday. There are companies out there that build tubular water features, and it's nothing more than stainless steel with spray hoses in, and they're about $7,000 a piece. So we're going to go locally. I'm going to go to some of my good friends that have steel operations, such as my brother Tom, and Global Fab, and see if we can get them to build it. We can get the design, they can build it, we can save ourselves a lot of money. So we're going to do it local. We're going to try to keep all the stuff local. As far as raising the funds, some of the other things we talked about, we're doing some fundraising events like at what used to be the community hall, is now the Opera House, because we're a nonprofit, we get a license to do like a casino night. So we thought of doing that, which should raise some monies, and some other things too. So it's kind of an aggressive project, but we think we can do it. We're pretty sure we're confident that we can complete the project in 2 years. So, any questions?
Very cool.
It is. I mean, when you talk about bringing people to Hortonville, we've got a lot of construction going on the residential side, but we really don't offer anything to keep the families here. Sure, we've got a few festivals, we've got a few things going on, but our parks need some upgrade. And that's the whole thing that we took on, is to upgrade these parks. I know we don't have a lot of money budgeted, if any at all, so it's gonna take the efforts of somebody else to try to bring it up to speed. So if you think there's anything else that could be added, one thing I will add to this. We're talking about doing a little mini golf course too, like a mini 9-hole, which would be over where the trees are. Yeah. But that's down the road. So we're trying to make this kind of a nice little family recreational park you could bring your kids to. We're going to work out a deal. Somehow we haven't decided how this is going to be managed. That's an issue. So I told Carl, I said, well, maybe he takes on the responsibility of managing it with a summer help, because it's X number of hours per week. All the revenue would come into the village, which is a good source of revenue for us. We would have more than adequate funds to offset the cost of the water, the utilities to run the pumps and stuff. So we think that's an opportunity. If the village decides, or if he decides no, he doesn't want to do it, then maybe we step up to the plate and Hortonville Civic Association enters into some kind of a lease agreement that we use the facility for the summer months, and then we split some profits. Maybe we have some kind of a kickback, you know? I don't want to use that word, kickback. But we have some kind of an agreement that...
Retain a portion of the funds.
That's good, I like that better. So then, you know, maybe the Hortonville Civic Association continues to use that opportunity to raise funds, to continue to pay down other projects or upgrade other things. But at the same time, then the village could prosper too, by getting a percentage of the gross receipts. We think, quite honestly, between Carl and Chris and I, we think this water feature for the mothers and the little kids, and, you know, we'll have an age bracket, you know, from toddler up to maybe 8 years old or something like that. We haven't decided yet. And that would be the age bracket that you know, the kids that could come in there. But we see if we should be able to handle up to 200 to 250 a day. So, I mean, that income, that $2 a piece could be pretty
And with
significant.
the Commonwealth development coming in, just walking distance too.
Right, right.
And are fathers allowed to bring their children to?
Of course, fathers are, yeah. Their fathers, I'm sure, that wouldn't be allowed, yes. So, any other questions?
Has Carl looked into anything, is there anything for grants?
That actually is up to us. That's up to me to look for grants, and Diane and I have talked about that, so
Okay.
we're open to that. The village we have, because we're a nonprofit, have a better opportunity to get grants than the village. So in that respect, that falls under the funding part of this. The design, engineering, the initiation of building this really is Carl's bailiwick on this. He's going to take charge of that. And then I'm on the financial side of it, funding and the fundraising part of it. So we're looking into that.
And then once it gets going and there's some concrete funds that are there, then that'll open up more ability for grants too, because typically what almost all of them look to is what do you already have?
Right.
So once it gets going, then we think that there'll be more opportunities for us, and some for the village that don't require the 501c3 where municipalities can apply. So
Right.
we'll work jointly on that, but
Right.
you gotta first get something.
Yeah, Diane and I have talked about that.
Good.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. We're opening up a separate account at BMO for this project. It's called the Hortonville Civic Association Miller Park Project. So all the checks to make sure that we don't commingle funds, all the checks that are associated, and all the income associated with the two festivals that we handle are in one account, checking account, everything goes into there. All the checks that are issued to us, they get a receipt, it's a nonprofit, so they get a tax deduction for it. Those funds go into the saving. As we spend the money down and we pay for these upgrades and stuff that need to be done, then the funds will be transferred dollar for dollar, penny for penny out of that savings account into the checking account. We'll have the accounting process taken care of too. So we'll cover all that.
All right, I'm gonna ask a dumb question.
What's that?
I have to look at Google Maps. Does this park in any way butt up to any of the property for the Opera House?
No.
No.
Yeah, it does
Yes,
from
it does.
behind, yes.
Yeah.
So would you kind of need to have something,
Corner.
a walking trail of some sort, so that if people do rent out the Opera House, this park is something.
Yeah, on the very east end of it, the ball diamond butts up.
Like
to
the
it.
corner of the parking lot.
Just close.
corner of
Just
the
a
park.
thought.
Just the corner.
Well, and actually, that's a conceptual design with the, when we did the 2020 vision for the downtown and had the
Yeah.
students do that. The student that did the overall view of it in the village property included just that in there because that's something that we talked about as.
It's just a
as
thought,
future.
because I thought that would be, like, if I'm gonna rent out the Opera House for a graduation party, and to be able to have children safely walk down, that would be.
Yeah, because when you come down the hill, the corner there,
Yep.
it goes right onto the,
Yep,
Just
Any other
behind
questions?
the parking lot for Mike Murphy,
like so.
right?
our all world.
Yeah,
Yeah, I found that out today. Any other questions?
all right.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very great.
Moving on to number 3, forestry equipment maintenance.
Okay, and what we're looking for is a recommendation from this committee to the board to authorize the use of forest reserve fund monies to cover possible budget overages in street equipment maintenance. The exact amount we don't know yet, but this would be in the form of a budget amendment at the end of the year. We just want to give a heads up. Because with the recent DOT inspection, the bucket truck has been deemed unsafe to operate. So we need to do some cracked leaf springs, boom cylinder pins, hydraulic hoses. So it's going to be costly. Chris has already repaired the rust jacking, and I just want to make note of that because he saved us several $1,000s by being able to do some of it. But total, we're looking at in the, let's see, just the accurate alignment to replace this, or, yeah, we'll replace the spring assemblies. That alone is $3,600 to $4,000. So without some financial assistance from the forestry fund, the repairs to the forestry truck would eat up most, if not all, of the equipment repair budget. So Carl is asking for a recommendation to the board to authorize the use of the forestry reserve fund for the repairs necessary on that truck. And again, it would come in the form of an amendment to the budget at the end of this year, but he wanted to give the board or the committee and the board as much advance notice as possible that we're going to need some of the money transferred.
And that's on the,
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yep, so this one, for this committee, it would be the motion to make a recommendation to the board.
How much is in that maintenance account?
Carl said the balance right now is $7,958.46.
It sounds like for what they need for the truck, could take most of that.
Yep, but it's absolutely necessary. I mean, this is the safety of our staff. It's deemed unsafe.
Definitely. And you can't run that vehicle until it is taken care of, correct? Is that-
I would say with
They
DOT
check that to
declaring
make
it,
Sure,
DOT declared it, and Carl has in quotes, unsafe to operate.
yeah,
So, no.
so we really have to.
And even regardless, again, I mean, we're talking safety,
Yeah.
so
Right.
So,
you don't want a workers' comp or death.
so you're looking for a motion to recommend to the board to use urban forestry reserve for forestry equipment maintenance. I'll make that motion.
No, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to number 4. Black Otter Lake District requests for ownership of boat landing electrical infrastructure.
This came up at the boat landing, I don't know how many years ago, but they put in an aeration system there and hooked electrical up to that. I had told a board meeting one time when Carl was there that we were no longer going to use that, because it's just a waste of money for us to put in a second hole that's not really needed. And that's when Carl said that if we're going to close it down, he would like to have it for future use. So what he'd like to do is take ownership of it, and then at this time shut it down so there's no cost. You know, have it turned off at the pole, the electricity turned off at the pole. Bowles has no problem picking up those costs of whatever they are. So it wouldn't be any cost to the village for doing this. It would just be basically a switch with We Energies of who the owners of it is.
And so what would be needed for this is a motion to recommend to the board that authorizing the village or Carl to accept that asset. Because that's what it is we're accepting an asset valued at about $1,500 of the actual structure.
Okay. What if ever they don't want it? Could we somehow have it worked out that we get it back? Yeah, that does go, no.
The electrical, to have it turned back on.
Yeah,
Yes.
that could be turned back
Yes.
on.
Yeah, I just don't want it
It
abandoned.
doesn't matter of them doing some kind of switching there
Okay.
to shut it off for now, and when he wants it, they turn it back on. You know, and
Right now
whatever
it's
that
the-
is, it'd probably be the village money to turn it back on, but any cost for turning it off, the Lake District is willing to pay.
Okay.
Because right now it's like a $20 monthly bill just to have this service available there that's never used.
And why
Yeah.
are they not using it?
Well, one, it's really not needed, and two, when the lake was down, the muskrats chewed holes into the air pipes that go through there, and it'd be way more expensive than what's, you know, for the need for it, so.
So Green Bay has rats, we have muskrats.
Chewing holes.
So if your friend is still trapping muskrats, he's welcome to them out there.
Is it legal to trap those? He's called.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, really? Where there's residential? I know he's.
I think you have to, there's certain process and so forth you have to do. I think you have to identify where the trap is and stuff, so it's not just
Okay.
hidden in
Yeah, and you have to follow whatever the DNR rules
Yeah.
are, but,
Yeah.
yeah, they could do it out there.
It's a thought. I think it could get epidemic.
So what, as I said, we actually need a recommendation, this is on the board agenda as well, so a motion to recommend to the board that authorizing the village, the public works, to accept the asset of the structure.
Okay, yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And is there anything else that needs to be discussed, or?
Anything for future, Peter? Do we need to put anything for your, do you want to,
No, let me just say that print that you have is pretty final.
okay,
Number two, when we get a better handle on the cost, I'll come back. Give you guys an outline of what these cost figures are. Chris is working on some now, Carl is too.
okay.
So you'll get a better handle of what this is going to cost. One thing I do want to bring to your attention is that when this facility is done, these assets are going to be turned over to the village in some way, shape, or form to show rightful ownership. So we'll have to involve our corporate attorney on this and draft some kind of a document.
As
If the
well as
structures,
insurance.
if the structures are being built on village property, though, it's
Yeah.
a little bit questionable as to whose they are to begin with.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, we'll have to address that. That's something we'll have to address with Mr.
Just part of the whole piece, like you
and
talked
then as
about.
well, the property and liability insurance will have to work out too, because we want to make sure that we're fully covered, whoever's it is.
But you are already, your new
Yes.
insurance policy that we talked about covers that.
Yes, I'm just saying that as we expand it, to make sure that we know to let the insurance
Right.
company know, and that's where the ownership comes in too, because it would be village ownership for village coverage.
Yeah, you know, that becomes a really delicate issue because, going back to what you said about what's rightful ownership, and should a nonprofit own
a facility on village property unless, of course, maybe there's a lease that's entered into.
Right, that would
So
be tricky.
these are things that, Bob, we can address in time. We've got months to work this
Yep.
out.
That looks great. Actually, I was contacted by a parent just yesterday that her son's an Eagle Scout looking for a project to do in the village. So, if you need any Eagle Scouts, I think I can get you some names. So, yeah, this is cool.
You also, at one point, told me you had some benefactor. Do you recall that conversation?
For the Historical Society.
If we could tie in that with the Opera House and historical,
Maybe you can work something out
maybe I
there.
can work something out there.
Okay.
Then I will make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.